he defied the gods for the goddess who stole his heart.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Belle challenged Olympus for Artemis's love movie. Before we start, please go support at 556 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Belle is a male. The long journey was made by our protagonist after he failed to protect the person who captured his heart, Artemis-Sama. I will meet you again. So when you return, you will see a world at peace and full of life, a world truly worthy of you, Artemis. A hero's journey to his beloved. We can finally have our 10,000 years of love. Some great dragons were flying through the skies at high speed towards the city of Aurario after a very emotional adventure. On one of the beasts was a certain boy with a downcast and really sad face who was holding a spear tightly. What happened with Artemis has affected him a lot, Hestia expressed, somewhat downcast and truly worried about her son. It's normal, love acts in mysterious ways, a day, a week, a month or a year. Time will never be a factor that determines whether you will feel it or not. For Belle and Artemis, it only took a few days for love to be born within them. It really hurts me to see Belle like that. I have to do something, Welf said, approaching his friend with his own dragon. The young man, who continued to look ahead without any expression on his face, was called by the redeed. Belle, friend, said the blacksmith. The boy turned in his direction. What's wrong, Welf? He asked. You'll see her again, he told her directly. Belle's brow furrowed at this. He was angered by the empty words that were merely a device used to make him feel better. However, Welf continued. You will see her again, and you will live 10,000 years of love, remember? So, when she comes back, make this world as wonderful as she is, he added, while placing his hand on his friend's shoulder. He calmed down at this, relaxing his face. Let's live 10,000 years of love, Belle, was the phrase that came back to her mind at Welf's words. Belle began to shed his tears again, though a thought arose. Artemis, I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but when you come back, when we meet again, we'll be happy forever. I'll fight to create a world worthy of you, I'll be a hero, and that way, there won't be any more sad goodbyes, only happiness, I promise. Yes, you're right, the white-haired man replied to the blacksmith, smiling at him with a face that reflected sadness. We're with you, Belle, was what Hestia and Lily mentioned on the other side of Belle's dragon. Thank you very much, Belle replied, wiping his tears with the sleeves of his jacket. Hermes, who watched him from a distance, had a single comment that was spoken in his mind. Belle, you'll see her again and you'll both be happy together, so be the hero she and everyone wants you to be. On the boy's back, a small glow began to shine, but his clothes prevented it from being seen by his friends and goddess. At the same time that this was happening, Belle formed a new desire. I have to see you again, Artemis. Without knowing it. Without imagining it. That was the beginning of a new path toward his goal. Be a hero. With a determined look and lifted spirits, he raised his face and stared at the sunrise. I have a long way to go, but I'm not alone, he told himself. Back in Aurario. Belle and company went down with their dragons to where the god Ganesha and some members of his family were waiting for them. I am Ganesha. How did your mission go? The god asked in his characteristic tone of voice and reactions. Hermes explained what had happened while Belle walked away from the scene, not wanting to hear the whole story again. Belle, where are you going? Hestia asked. It's simple, Kami-sama, I'll go and become strong as no one else, and that way, I'll be able to protect the people I love the most, the white-haired man answered calmly with a smile that showed that same feeling. So what are we waiting for? Let's go to the dungeon. Welf said, holding his sword. Lily thinks there won't be much difference from the way we normally act, we always get into trouble, the little hobbit said with a laugh that represented trauma. That's true, both men said. As Ganesha and Hermes spoke, the latter ended with a request to the other god. No one can find out what happened, not even Loki and much less Freya. Okay, Ganesha. Was what the traveling god said. I am Ganesha. So be it. Ganesha replied. And so the journey began. Orgay Mark. We found ourselves in the abandoned church, the seat of the Hestia familia. Belle was sitting on the couch next to Lily and Welf, all three of them with their heads bowed while Hestia stood in front of them. Let me see if I understand, you got into a fight with one of the largest families in all of Aurario because of provocations they made, that was practically what you wanted, you know that, right? Hestia asked them while rubbing her eyes with her fingers. I'm sorry, Kami-sama, Belle replied with some wounds on his body and very sorry for his behavior. It's not just his fault, I should have avoided losing my temper too, Welf said, who was in no better condition than his partner. Lily regrets not being able to stop them, but I tried, said the hobbit. At least one of you tried to be sensible about all this, but the problem isn't that you had a fight, the problem is what Apollo will do now. That damn pervert doesn't do things just for the sake of it, he must love you, Hestia said as she looked towards her son. Me? But there's no way he can steal from me, right? The boy asked somewhat nervously, seeing what his actions could trigger. Belle, you practically broke the captain of his family's face. Do you think he'll leave you unharmed? Besides, he doesn't just limit himself to girls. Your innocence is in danger. The little goddess informed while shaking her son. Huh? My innocence? That it's not limited to boys? What do you mean? Belle was about to ask, but the answer came to him quickly and he understood what his goddess was referring to. Huh? That's unnatural. The boy claimed with fear and disgust. That's why I'm worried about you. Although due to your daily training in the dungeon, you're practically at Hyacinth's level, although there are still almost 100 in the Apollo family, even if you surpass their captain in power, it's not an advantage due to the numbers against you, Hestia opined, not knowing what to do. The declaration of a war game is inevitable, but if it's because of us that Belle got into this mess, we'll support him to overcome it, even if I have to change families to help them, Welf commented, with determination. Lily thinks the same. The little support agreed. Knock knock knock. The church door was knocked on, interrupting the moment. Who could it be? The goddess wondered, heading for the entrance. After a few seconds, Hestia arrived where the rest were. Did something happen, Kami-sama? Belle asked, noticing his goddess's serious face. Apollo has invited us to a party at his headquarters, Hestia reported. Everyone tensed at that moment. The white-haired man took a deep breath to calm himself. I said it, didn't I? I'll protect the people I love the most. I won't let anyone take me away from you. That was the only thing he said as he looked at the silver and blue spear at his side. So war game it will be and we will win. He finished, puffing out his chest and standing up. And so, with the young rabbit's big decision, the rest of the family caught the same message and prepared for what was coming. As expected, at the same Apollo festival, the god of this family challenged the Hestia family to a war game, which surprised everyone. The city had no faith in the Hestia family's victory, so most of the bets were in favor of the challenger, although there were 2 people who bet on the Hestia family. Something curious happened at the Apollo family mansion party before the wargame petition was launched. Belle stood on the balcony, looking at the moon, that beautiful moon that whenever he looked at it, made him remember the woman inside his heart. I will make a world of peace so we can be together, Artemis, he said while shedding a few small tears. Belle said a girl behind him. The boy instinctively turned around when he was called. Ace? The white-haired man asked, recognizing the person in front of him. Hello, Belle, the golden-haired girl greeted. Hi Ace, so you're here too, I didn't expect it, by the way, you look very beautiful, Belle greeted while giving her a small compliment without any kind of shame or anything like that. He wasn't a flirt or anything, that was just the impression he had. After what happened with Artemis, Belle gradually lost that desire he had, the desire to reach the sword princess, Ace Wallenstein. Her cheeks blushed at the compliment. Thank you very much, Belle, he thanked. They both looked out at the large courtyard of the headquarters, talking about trivial things and adventures they had had in these last few days when they hadn't been able to see each other lately. After a few minutes, a question asked. Belle, would you like to dance? Who made this suggestion, his Ace, to the young man's surprise. Dance? He replied. Yes, I don't know how to dance, but if you don't mind, she confessed, she didn't look like that expressionless doll, she looked like a normal girl with her red cheeks and her gaze directed to the side because of the embarrassment of staring at the boy. An image flashed through Belle's mind before he could even think about what to say, the image of him and Artemis dancing. This made me have an answer. I'm sorry Ace, I don't think I can dance with you. This caused her spirits to fall. I understand, don't worry, said the sword princess. Ace, there's something I wanted to ask you, Belle said, getting the girl's attention. Is it possible we can train together again? I miss doing it and I want to get stronger, the white-haired man asked calmly. She was surprised by this, the boy's determined look made her open her eyes wide. Yes, let's train together again, Belle replied with a small smile on her face. The spirits, which had been on the ground, rose again with that request. War game, almost at the end. The great battle was in its final stretch, still without a winner. The Hestia Familia, consisting of Belle, Lily, Welf, Mikoto, who joined upon hearing Apollo's declaration, and Ryu, who joined at Hermes' request and also trained Belle along with Ace to prepare him, was massacring the family of that perverted god. In less than 10 minutes, a large part of Apollo's army had fallen. Standing face to face were the captains of both families. How the hell are you so strong? Jacinto asked with great fury when he saw himself surpassed by the young white-haired level 2, a level 3 being defeated by a level 2. I have to be, there is a promise that I must keep at all costs, Belle answered at the same time that a ringing began to be heard in his right hand, the hand that held Orion's spear. Clang. 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 What is that? Both Jacinto and Apollo asked themselves from the stands. If anyone dares to threaten the lives of my loved ones, he continued as a white glow spread through the spear until it completely covered it. I will defeat him. He finished. Ahhhh. He shouted with great force, running towards Jacinto, who remained standing and trembling with fear. He knew that he could not avoid his fate. Pooh. A strong blow was directed at Jacinto's face, the impact wave destroying everything in front of the spear and thus raising a large curtain of earth and debris. It was at that moment, when the dust cleared, that the spectators were able to see who the winner was. Just millimeters from contacting its target, the spear stopped. Jacinto looked at the tip of the weapon in terror. "I'm not a murderer," Belle whispered, giving him a small blow with the end of the spear, causing Jacinto to fall back on the ground in fear. It can't be possible against all odds. The winner of the war game is Hestia Familia. A narrator's voice shouted to the four winds, thus sealing the end of the event. A sigh of relief was made by several people who supported the rabbit and the family of the little goddess Loli. From the Twilight Mansion, a certain swordswoman said the following with great joy. "Well done, Belle." From the stands where the gods watched what was happening, Apollo looked at Hestia in terror. Hestia, he said, trying to avoid his fate. "Fufu, all your money and belongings will be mine." The little goddess shouted at the top of her lungs. She already looks like a wife getting divorced XD. And so the war game came to an end. "Nothing or anyone will be taken from me, not again. I'm getting closer to you, my beautiful goddess," Belle thought with an image of Artemis passing through his mind. "I love you, Artemis." In the distance, a goddess watched as Belle's soul grew stronger and brighter. "She's getting more beautiful, but why is this? I have to know," Freya said from the top of the Tower of Babel. End of the arc. Abraham Rescue Arc. Some time after the events of the war game, the Hestia family was settled in Apollo's mansion, their new headquarters, which was named Chimney Mansion. The times were relatively calm, if we leave aside the fact that Belle continued fighting in the dungeon, although without taking too many risks, something unusual for him. After defeating Jacinto, he became a level 3 adventurer and began to go deeper and deeper into the dungeon with his family. But back to what's important. One night, as they were about to go to sleep, they noticed that their partner Makoto left the mansion with Chigusa, and they looked really suspicious, so they decided to follow her, even if it was a lack of respect for their privacy. Great was their surprise when they realized where they had arrived. "This must be a damn joke," they all said in unison at the entrance to the pleasure district. "Artemis would kill me if she knew I was here," Belle whispered, feeling a chill run down his spine. "Well, we should follow them," Welf said, going deeper. "Are we going in?" Lily asked angrily. "Welf is right, we must go after them, we don't know if they are in danger, it's the best thing to do considering this scenario," replied the white-haired man, agreeing with the blacksmith. "Ugh. Okay. But you won't leave us, Bellsama." The hobbit shouted as she grabbed the young man's hand tightly and dragged him like a mother would her distracted son. "I'd like to laugh, but now is not the time," thought the Redeed following them. And so they entered into that place of lust and perdition, unaware that this was the beginning of a long series of problems. There, they walked behind Makoto and Chigusa, at a safe distance, so as not to be seen by either of them. Suddenly, several men approached them, looking like they were in trouble. "Come on. We have to help them," Welf shouted, running over to where the two were. Lily and Belle were behind him, but a warning came from one of the brothels. "It's time for service," said a prostitute while waving a bell. People began to gather and the poor boy just watched as his classmates got further and further away. "Lily. Welf." Belle shouted as he was hugged by a woman and dragged into the brothel by the crowd. After a few seconds in which both girls from the Take Mikazuchi family talked about the reason that brought them to that place, they noticed the person who was missing with them. "Belle, we forgot about Belle." Welf shouted, fear running through his body. On the streets of the pleasure district. The white-haired young man was walking very carefully, looking around for his friends and, if possible, trying to avoid more girls from approaching him. However, he managed to lock eyes for a moment with a woman with golden hair and ears of the same color. Serenity whispered. His attention was focused on it until he saw a familiar figure in the distance. Artemis-Sama. The young man asked in surprise upon seeing the traveling god. "Oh? Belle. What a surprise to find you here," Hermes said. It's not what Hermes-Sama thinks, I had a problem with my companions and we got lost," Belle explained, hoping that his presence there would not be misinterpreted. "Don't worry, Belle, I understand, you wouldn't come to a place like this of your own free will, she still exists in your heart, right?" The god answered in an understanding manner. He just looked down with a melancholic smile. "Yes, she will always be in my heart and mind, there is not a day in which her image does not cross my thoughts, every time I look at the moon, I see her, as well as her beautiful and shining smile," Belle responded with some pain in his words at the same time that he looked up and saw the starry sky. "I haven't lost hope of seeing her again," he concluded. I'm sure it will be, so don't give up, keep walking forward, following your dreams and goals. That's what she would want to see, Hermes said, placing his hand on the boy's head and ruffling his hair. I'm sorry our conversation can't last longer, I have some commitments, I didn't come here by my own choice either, so I hope you can find your friends, see you. The god said goodbye as he walked towards a large tower, apparently it was the headquarters of the Ishtar family. After that encounter, Bell continued searching for wealth, Lily, Mikoto and Chigusa, however, he had a somewhat unfortunate encounter. Boom. As he was running, he turned into one of the alleys and collided with someone. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Bell asked, apologizing for his mistake. I haven't seen you before. You're very attractive. I'm Aisha. And you? The Amazon replied with a seductive tone in her voice as she observed every detail of the young man's body. Bell just stood there, staring at her with a huge blush on his face. Do you want to join me tonight? Aisha asked as she brought her face dangerously close to the boy's. In a swift movement, the Amazon grabbed him tightly, preventing him from moving. This frightened Bell greatly. No. I don't, the white-haired man said, very scared by the force the woman was exerting. He was level 3 and was being subdued by a prostitute. If the situation didn't seem to be getting any worse, several voices approached his position. Aisha. It's the little rookie. The one from the war game against the Apollo family. A girl approaching with 3 others warned. That's right. White hair and red eyes. Those were the comments the girls gave, confirming Bell's identity, who gulped. I saw it first. They won't have it. Aisha said, squeezing Bell's body even tighter. Wait. I'm just looking for my friends. The white-haired man shouted, trying to get away, but his attempts were in vain. His comment was monumentally ignored and he was dragged away against his will. Help. That scream was heard throughout Arario. At the Ishtar family seat. Help, Bell repeated in his mind as he sat staring at the ground. He was sitting in an armchair, surrounded by several Amazons with not very puritanical intentions, who were waiting for one of the rooms to free up so they could take their turn devouring the poor white rabbit. I have to think of a plan to get out of here. I don't even have the weapons, much less the physical strength to face them all and escape. I have to wait for a distraction, thought the white-haired man, while looking out of the corner of his eye at the places where he could escape. Suddenly, loud footsteps were heard, accompanied by an unpleasant laugh. What the hell is that? Bell screamed in his mind, terrorizing to the millionth power. Without him expecting it, they all began to argue about who would be the first to try the boy. Wait, this is the distraction I needed. Thanks, Lucky, I was starting to think you were useless. He said to himself as he slowly stood up and headed for the nearest exit from his position. The argument that was their escape route had suddenly stopped. Noticing this, he knew he had been seen. They won't take me alive. He shouted without looking back and running as fast as his legs could carry him. And so, a chase for the bunny's carrot had begun. They were close to catching him many times, but somehow Bell managed to avoid and dodge them. I'm from Artemis, if they catch me I'll stop being myself. He kept repeating to himself without slowing down. From one moment to the next, while running across the roofs of buildings, he went down to the streets and entered one of the brothels that seemed empty, although he was greatly surprised to realize that it wasn't. I was expecting you, sir. I'll be your escort tonight. My name is Haraham, said the Renard from before while bowing. Bell asked, tilting his head in confusion. Suddenly, she began to pull him towards a futon so they could both lie down. Wait. That's not why I came here. The white-haired man reported with great despair. This seemed to confuse the girl. So what did you come here for, sir? Haraham asked. Why, you see. And at that moment Bell told him what had happened to his friends, how the Amazons had captured him and were looking for him. Oh, I understand, if you wish, you can stay here and wait and I can take you back at dawn by a shortcut. I just have one thing I would like to ask for, the Renard commented. One thing? As long as it's something I can do, there's no problem, Bell replied. Can you talk to me about that? The girl asked. The white-haired man was surprised by this but accepted without hesitation. The long conversation began, about their origins and what they had experienced. They seemed really into it. Bell told him about his adventures in the dungeon and his dreams. So you also want to be a hero like in the stories? Haraham asked with a sparkle in her eyes. Yes, my dream is to be a great hero and meet someone again, he answered with some impression upon seeing the girl's excited face. My dream was always to be rescued like a princess, she whispered, somewhat dejected. Bell asked her what was happening, and that's how she began the story about her childhood and how she was sold by her parents and then ended here. She had lost hope. The young man tried to convince her that she didn't have to resign herself to that she could and deserved to be saved and that she shouldn't be discouraged. Araham remained in denial, resigned to the fact that none of that would change, until Belle told her something that stuck with her. "Then I'll be the one to save you." Renard's eyes were fixed directly on the person who said those words. "I will be the hero who gets you out of here and in that way give you the option of being the master of your own destiny. So just wait and see," he finished with a pure smile. She remained silent with her cheeks flushed and smiling with joy at this. Without realizing it, dawn began to break, it was time to get to Belle and head out of the pleasure district. Already at the exit, both said goodbye, but not before Haraham gave her answer. "Mr. Bell. I'll wait for you. I'll trust you." He looked at her fixedly and said. "I'll come for you." As he ran back to his headquarters, a thought flooded his head. "Artemis, she is someone who deserves and must be saved, I hope you understand." On the verge of confrontation against the Ishtar family. Both the Hestia family and the Take Mikazuchi family were standing at the entrance to the pleasure district. The reason? Simple, they would go to rescue Haraham. To put it into context, after Bell returned from his bad night in the pleasure district, he told them what happened with a certain Renard girl, which left those present impressed, but especially Mikoto. Haraham was the one both Orientals were looking for that night in the pleasure district. Upon hearing this, Mikoto was thrilled to know that her friend was okay, although there was one important detail that neither of them were aware of. To everyone's surprise, Hermes arrived unannounced and told them something that shocked them. And that's what it means, the Renards have a special magic. The fact that there's one in the pleasure district and Ishtar has asked me for one of those stones means she plans to use it on her. Her magic is most likely very powerful, although that's not all, commented the traveling god. "She loves you, Belle," he added in a cold tone of voice. He didn't reveal his motives or how he knew. He only revealed the warning. "We have to rescue Haraham," Belle declared, clenching his fists. Although everyone agreed to do it, they knew it was a nearly impossible task due to the strength of the Ishtar family. The Apollo family was a completely different thing from this one. "Ami-sama, I updated my status, it's time to see how much I improved in these 2 weeks," the white-haired man asked with a serious and determined face. The goddess just nodded. After that last bit, the assault on the pleasure district began. Bell held in his hands the Hestia dagger and the Minotaur horn dagger, but more importantly, on his back was Orion's spear. Ending the battle against Phryne. Bell was on his knees, his body mangled and blood pouring from his open wounds. "Kukuku, where did all that courage go, kid? I have to admit I was surprised you were able to push me to my limits being only a level 3, but this ends here, today you will die without having been able to save her, like that stupid goddess," said the toad woman as she raised her weapon and walked towards him. Bell's face tightened with fury at this. Phryne knew what happened to Artemis. She knew because Ishtar got the info out of Hermes, which was obvious. He'd ask if we realized there was literally a damn arrow in the sky aimed at Arario. Without being able to save her, Bell said, repeating the last thing the woman said. "That's not true, Haraham is still alive, I can still save her. I can't give up, I won't let the same thing happen to me as with Artemis, like I said, I'll protect those I love, those I care about." At that instant, Bell began to stand up, leaning on his spear as a white glow emanated from his arm. "Oh. Can you still go on? How brave. But useless," Phryne said. "Haraham," the boy named the Renard. "I'll save you," he finished, smiling at her with blood on his face. "I, bellcranel, cannot die. I have a goal to accomplish. A goal to achieve." The glow kept growing and being absorbed by the spear. "And someone to see again," he finished. Phryne began to lose the confidence she had until recently about winning the match. Clang. 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 The bells were heard throughout the pleasure district, calming people's hearts. "What is that?" the toad woman wondered. "You're doomed," the members of the Hestia family who had barely arrived there answered him. "Argonaut, 50 seconds. Bell's closed eyes felt Phryne running in his direction to stop whatever was going to happen. However, before I could even hit him, he suddenly opened his eyes. "I'll make you pay for insulting Artemis, damn toad woman," he whispered while gritting his teeth in fury. Hhhh. Fiery bolt. A large amount of flames shot out from the sharp tip of the spear. Sly Ayosh. The same point was buried in the toad woman's armed arm. Without anyone expecting it, something incredible happened. A huge internal explosion was caused in Phryne's arm, which had been shattered into pieces. "My arm!" He screamed in great pain as he felt the flames burning his entire right side. Without even being able to counterattack, he ran into Bell's hand extended in front of his face. "Bye-bye." "Wait," he tried to say. "I can genuinely say that, for the first time, I hate someone," he added with a dark look that matched the tone of his voice, interrupting the plea. Firebolt. The second explosion was made, sending Phryne flying and leaving bellcranel as the sole winner. His friends approached him as he was falling backward from exhaustion. "You did well, Bell, you did well," Welf said, picking him up. "Why yes, we did it," he replied. Before they could celebrate, a great golden tower, reaching from the ground to the sky, appeared near the position where they were standing. "What's that?" Bel asked. "The god has returned to heaven." As he fixed his gaze on that place, he saw the goddess Freya standing on the great tower, who said something that could not be understood by him. "We have to get out of here, the rescue was a success," Welf commented to Bel, going to where the rest of his family and the Take Mikazuchi family were. Although the boy in question had fainted. I did it, Artemis," he said before the lights went out. The path to becoming a hero was still open, he was getting stronger and overcoming the adversities that came his way, so much so that he was practically a level 4, however, he couldn't be leveled up because no one should find out that they were involved in the attack on the Ishtar family. Getting closer to completing his mission. Getting closer to her. End of the arc. Xeno's arc. I was wandering around the dungeon like any other day. I was near the big tree, killing a few monsters until something caught my attention. It was a whining noise. After what happened in the battle to rescue Harahim, she joined the Hestia family without any hesitation, since she wanted to be where her savior was, and she also wanted to continue being with her friend Makoto. Things were quiet for a long time, the Hestia familia began to gain more and more strength to the point where Makoto was close to going up to level 3 and Welf, like Lily, to level 2. Regarding Bel, he could also go up to level 4, but he had to find an adventure that would allow him to do so, since if they found out that he defeated the Toad Woman, the guild would know that he was involved in the attack on the Pleasure District and they would receive a heavy fine like the Freya familia. But back to what I said before, Bel's little visit to the dungeon would end with an encounter that would provoke a lot of unexpected events. Running towards where the whining was coming from, he came across an impressive scene. The Vouivre being attacked. Firebolt. Bel shouted, driving the bird-type monsters away from the site. When he got close enough, he saw the little girl crying and covered in claw wounds all over her body. She stared at him with fear and tears in her eyes, which ran down her cheeks with blood. "A monster that cries?" he wondered in great surprise. At that moment, a firebird landed in front of them and breathed fire towards their position. Bel stood between the Vouivre and the other monster, with his salamander skin he avoided the burns, and with a quick cut with his dagger he finished it off. As he approached the little girl again, some screams alerted him. "Where's the Vouivre?" "Hey you. Have you seen a Vouivre?" an intimidating-looking adventurer asked. In a swift movement, he covered the little girl with his salamander skin cloak so they wouldn't see who they were looking for. "My partner has serious burns. Does anyone have any potions?" he asked, standing between her and him. "I'm not interested," the same man replied as he walked away, thus ignoring the target of his search without even knowing it. As he walked away from them both, Bel approached her again, who looked shaky, and extended his hand, hesitantly taking it. "Beldono. We finally caught up with him," Makoto said from a distance along with Lily, Welf and Harahim. "Bel-sama, who is this young lady?" Lily asked when the group was united again. "For now I think it's best to return to the 18th floor," said the white-haired man, taking the little monster's hand. An explanation later. Already at the Hestia family headquarters and after a long, as if exhausting, explanation, a unanimous agreement was reached. "Then she will stay here momentarily until we find a way for her to be safe in the dungeon. I have a feeling I should talk this over with Ganesha. His family is dedicated to taming monsters after all," Hestia expressed, sighing because she saw many problems coming again. "Lily thinks it's a mistake to have her here, but there's no other option if that's what everyone decides," the little hobbit said, resigning herself to this outcome. "Understood, I promise that you won't leave the headquarters territory, I'll take care of it, right, Ween?" Bel said, saying this last question to the little girl. She just nodded. "Ween?" They all asked. It's the name I decided to give him, he seems to like it," the white-haired man answered them. "I'm Ween, thank you very much for helping me," expressed the Vouivre with a beautiful and innocent smile that made those present feel a certain warmth in their hearts. "Nice to meet you, Ween, I'm Harahim," the Renard introduced herself while she caressed her sweetly. "I see that it won't be such a big problem to have her here, but I'll go with Ganesha anyway, it's already getting dark and I wouldn't want it to get any later," Hestia reported as she headed to the headquarters of said family. "We will wait for her, Kami-sama," Bel said, saying goodbye to his goddess. A few hours later. Time had passed and Hestia still hadn't returned, so they decided to go to sleep and not lock the door. Bel had briefly gone out into the courtyard when he finally managed to get Ween to sleep. In the solitude of the night, with only the sound of the wind passing by, the chirping of crickets, and a few noises from nearby houses and businesses, he began to sit on the grass. "Hello again, Artemis," he greeted while looking at the sky and finishing putting his butt on the ground. "Sorry I haven't come to say hello for a few days. It's just that I've been very busy in the dungeon, so much so that I'm really tired when I get home and all I want to do is sleep. But hey. I see you in my dreams, I always see you in them." Although not only in them. Every melodious sound reminds me of you. Every sweet scent makes your image pass through my mind. Every beautiful day is overshadowed when at night I see you in my dreams, and during the days I remember your voice. He paused for a moment. I really miss you, he finished his greeting with a sad look. Let's catch up, he continued with a fake smile on his face and his eyes staring at the beautiful moon. A few days ago, my group and I started exploring the last floors of the middle floors. I have to admit it was surprising how much the dungeon changed from one area to the next. Although we managed to solve it in a good way. Every day I get stronger, I can already go up to level 4, but from what I told you the last time we talked, I can't do it, so it's a secret between the Hestia family, Hermes family, Take Mikazuchi family, you and me he. Taking a slight pause in which he breathed deeply, he continued speaking. Today I met a little viewer who was crying. Can you believe it? He asked the air. I know she's a monster, and that as adventurers our responsibility is to finish them off, however, something in her gaze prevented me from doing so. At this point she should always be asleep in my room, it was a little difficult to get her to do it, but we managed it. She seemed to have a lot of nightmares, so I should go back in case she wakes up screaming after having one again. But I'd like to stay a little longer. As I was saying, I found her and brought her to the mansion, you know how I am, I can't leave anyone who needs help, he commented while nervously scratching his cheek. I named her Ween after my entire family, and my goddess agreed to keep her with us. It's a nice name, one from a story I read a while ago. When we see each other again, I'll tell you all the stories I know, I promise. I think that's all that's happened lately. I'd like to be able to tell you more important things, but the fact that everything's calm is a good sign. But I'm starting to get used to being in constant danger. With her voice breaking and tears beginning to flow, she stood up again. I wish you were here to see it all. I really want to see you. However, for now, it is not possible. The tears wouldn't stop, and her voice became increasingly shaky as she tried to continue speaking. When we meet again I will never leave your side again. Wiping her tears with the sleeves of her jacket, she looked back at the moon. Not even the brightness of the moon is comparable to the brilliance of your smile. I hope to see her again soon with you, my beautiful Artemis. And so we can have our 10,000 years of love, as we promised. And so, the conversation between Belle and Artemis came to an end that night. If all goes well, I'll be back tomorrow at this time to continue talking with you. I'll try to find something we can talk about. The young man returned to the interior of the mansion while a pleasant breeze hit his face and moved his hair with its force. In the starry and calm sky, a faint silhouette could barely be seen. The next morning, the little goddess entered her mansion with a really tired face, which was full of dark circles. Apparently, she spent the whole night at the Ganesha family headquarters. Hey Kami-sama, what happened? Asked Belle, who was sitting having breakfast with the rest of the family. Many words I didn't understand. I am Ganesha, I don't want to see Ganesha again for a long time, Hestia answered with a lost look. It would be good if you got some sleep, Hestia-sama, Makoto advised as she placed a pot of food on the table. No, it's important that you know what they told me, besides that, they gave me a letter directly from Uranus. Hestia discarded the option, showing the letter she had in her hand and putting seriousness into the matter. This sparked the family's interest, and they stopped what they were doing to give their goddess as much attention as possible. Apparently, Ween isn't the only one, Hestia said, thus beginning the conversation. There are more like them, this is information that we shouldn't share with anyone, in fact, we shouldn't even know it, but we're already in trouble since Belle found Ween, it's the only reason why the Ganesha family had no choice but to tell us the whole truth. In short, there are more of them in a safe area inside the dungeon, and in the letter from Uranus, who is aware of them and seeks to help them, gives us a map and explains that we must return there to avoid problems here on the surface, for the simple reason that people are not yet ready to know of their existence. Everyone was speechless at this information. But Kami-sama, there were people looking for Ween on the intermediate floors, will she be safe in that safe zone? Belle asked with concern as he looked at the viewer. I can't assure you, but those were the instructions that the Ganesha and Urano family gave us. We have to return her, although that doesn't mean that you can't see her again, we can visit sometimes, so don't worry Ween, he said to Hestia, while calming the little girl, who was about to cry. Okay, I'll trust them, then, it's time to go, it's still early, and there shouldn't be many people on the streets, it would be dangerous to wait until they are more populated, the white-haired man said, standing up. I'll go for my team, they all said in unison. In the distance Makoto was crying internally. Nobody ate my food. After that short explanation, the entire Hestia family went to where the letter's instructions indicated, all except the goddess of the family for obvious reasons. Cough cough, Black Goliath. Safe zone. Monsters and humans were living together, everyone was happy with the presence of the Hestia family, although at first it wasn't like that. When the adventurers arrived and got close enough, they were attacked without warning. As the battle was coming to an end and Belle was about to finish off a lizard, the lizard spoke and laughed, causing the rest of the monsters to stop their attack. This further confused Belle and the rest of his family. They couldn't understand the sudden change in mood. Back to the present. So you call yourselves Xenos? I didn't think you could exist. It's a relief to know you're not hostile, Belle said as he shook each of their hands in greeting. We should say the same, it's nice to see that there are people like you who don't feel fear or disgust towards us, the lizard replied. So, can you take care of Ween? We promised to come visit from time to time, asked Harahim, who didn't leave the little girl's side. Yes, she'll be safe here, we'll take care of her, Ray, a very nice siren, replied. Okay, then we'll see each other next time, Ween said the white-haired man at the same time as he finished to be at the same level as the viewer. She just said goodbye, although she was sad, she knew it wasn't the last time they would see each other. Back on the surface, a couple of days later, something unexpected happened. Nos. The Akelos family, who were searching for Ween on the intermediate floors when Belle found the Xeno safe zone. Ix, the captain of the same, was a tamer who had controlled the Xenos, and the Hestia familia had to go to his rescue. After a long and exhausting battle, they finally seemed to be winning by getting lit and the rest of the smartest laughs out of the mind control. However, something really bad happened. Ween lost control and climbed to the surface, where the Loki family had her cornered upon seeing all the panic she had caused with her presence. She was no longer the little girl she had been before, now she had become something even more terrifying. But someone had to stop her. On the surface. Belle stood between the Loki family and Ween, who had a spear stuck in her shoulder. The gaze of the civilians and the Loki family itself tensed at this. The young man pulled the spear from its place and threw it aside. Before anyone could complain or comment, he said something that seemed out of place given the context of the situation. It's my prey. Don't interfere. He shouted as he ran after the viewer before the expectant and incredulous eyes of a certain blonde swordswoman. Finn was about to give the order to follow them and finish off the monster, but a loud bang stopped him. Pooh. The ground of the place had collapsed and hundreds of monsters came out of it and attacked the Loki family. This was Belle's chance to save Ween. That destruction and screaming meant nothing to him, who couldn't stop thinking about the series of problems he was getting into. Sorry people, however I promised myself not to abandon or let anyone I care about die. This is not a fault, Ween is just a victim, you can hate me if you want, but if I don't save her right now I will hate myself. He shouted in his thoughts with great determination and quickening his pace with all the strength of his legs. Artemis, please give me the strength to continue, let me reach her, he finished, crying out of fear of not making it. Unbeknownst to Ween, she was led into a trap inside the Colosseum. Wait, Ween. Belle shouted, trying to warn her about the trap, but it was too late. A large number of spells were cast by the mages surrounding the circumference of the site, thus causing great damage to the little monster. Ween. The floor is collapsing. Belle shouted as he ran to her to hold her, but fell with her. When she finally stood up she noticed the damage was done, that little girl was disappearing, her magic stone was breaking. No. The white-haired man denied, hugging the girl's body. Belle, I'm sorry, Ween said, her strength reduced. Calm down, don't worry, I'm fine, so Ween, the boy replied with a broken voice. Sometimes I dream a dream where no one comes to rescue me, a nightmare, but this time there were people who came to help me, it made me very happy, said the viewer, with a smile on her face. As he finished those words, the magic stone could no longer resist and broke, leaving behind only a large amount of dust. Oh, once again I couldn't save anyone, I'm sorry Ween, I'm sorry for being so weak, I promised to keep you safe, and I didn't, just like I couldn't do it that time, either. Belle knelt down in tears as all the Xenos who had come to the rescue looked on. How can I even think of being a hero if I couldn't rescue two people who were within my reach, the white-haired man asked himself, his eyes filled with tears and his fist shaking. From the pressure exerted by his fists, his palms began to bleed. Everything was sadness until a voice began to recite a chant. Uncharted area, the forbidden wall. On this day, I disobey heaven's code. Pious as Asclepius, Salus as Chalice. Your voice forcing the healing power to arrive, I desire it despite the weight. King's tribunal, thunder of condemnation. If you are burned despite God's providence, confront your own hell. Open Cayman, beyond the river of the underworld. Here, dark king. I wish to cross the threshold of madness. Stop unexpected tears, scattered lamentation. The price has been paid. Light of the path. For the sacrifice given in the past, I want the illumination of senseless desire. Oh, I do not look back. The great tower of light extended from where they stood to the sky. The person responsible for this was Fels, who had used an ancient magic capable of breaking the laws of the world, capable of reviving someone. Ween's jewel began to shine in the same way until a sphere of light formed around it until the miracle happened. Ween had revived. Belle?" asked the little girl. "Ween?" he shouted as he hugged her very tightly. "You're alive, you're really alive," Belle kept saying, burying his face in the viewer's shoulder. This time even if he couldn't save her, a miracle smiled on them and they managed not to lose anyone. But despite the moving scene, the problems did not end there. It arrived that night. Mission: bring the Xenos to Nos. After Belle's scene in front of all of Aurelio, people began to repudiate him and throw hatred at him, so much so that they blamed him for the damage, although fortunately, there were no fatalities among civilians. However, Aurelio's hatred of the Hestia Familia was not the only problem, since now the Xenos had no way to return to the safe zone. Nos had been revealed, the monsters were free in the city, and they couldn't just casually go to the dungeon and expect to be allowed to hide, so the Hestia Familia, with the help of the Hermes and Ganesha Familia, as well as Uranus, devised a plan to get them inside the dungeon without any of them being in danger. The only one who remained with the Hestia family, in the safety of the mansion, was Ween. After fine-tuning the details, there was only one comment. "It has to be done, I won't allow anyone to get hurt again, even if I have to fight the entire city, I will protect the Xenos," Belle said, with great determination, leaving his mansion first on this dark and quiet night, which was a couple of hours away from being disturbed. Needless to say, the plan ran into complications. The Loki family, who had been keeping an eye on the Hestia family, knew something was going to happen that night and sent Ace to keep an eye on Belle. Despite his attempts to stop her and thus prevent him and Ween from meeting her, it was not enough and, just when Belle finally managed to take her to the safe zone and block the way with a gate, the Princess of the Sword arrived. After a series of threats and warnings from Ace, the conflict reached its climax. Ready to attack him. Ready to protect the girl behind him. Both of them, head-on, facing a person they didn't want to face, but were forced to do so by the circumstances of the event. "I really don't want to do this, Ace, but I won't lose anyone important to me again, I won't let someone die in front of me again. That's why I won't allow you to get close to her," Belle finished, gripping his daggers tightly. Ace's imperturbable face was wrinkled by the fury and disappointment of that moment. A large amount of sparks flew out from the clash between Hestia's dagger and Ace's sword. "Ween, go away. I'll take care of her," Belle pleaded, blocking all of Ace's attacks. Ween hesitated whether to leave or not, but he knew that if he stayed alone he would be in the way. Ace, seeing her target leaving, tried to evade Belle, but something happened she didn't expect. "Firebolt!" The young man shouted in her direction, blocking her way. The sword princess couldn't even see the moment when Belle rushed to attack her after that. Clang. The metal colliding with force. Hands vibrating from the impacts. The trust that was created between them is breaking. After a quick attack, Ace threw Belle aside, crashing into the wall. Boom. "Why are you doing this? She's not human, she's a monster," the princess asked. "I said it a moment ago, didn't I? I'm not going to allow someone important to me to die before my eyes again," the white-haired man replied, taking a breath after saying it and standing up, even though his body was demanding a rest. "You've changed since that day, I noticed, however I can't allow her to escape, she's not like us, she's a monster," Ace replied, pointing her sword. "They kill humans," he added. "We killed many of them anyway," the young man shouted with clear fury. "It's over, I'll finish you off," said the blonde, pointing her rapier at the boy's body. "I can't do anything now, but at least I managed to make Ween run away," Belle thought, relaxing his body. "Before I could do anything, someone got in the way." "No," Ween shouted, standing between them. "Don't hurt Belle, please," the little girl added to her words. "Ween?" Belle asked, abandoning his previous state. Ace remained silent, saying nothing. "I want to be with Belle," said the viewer, while crying. "I won't allow it, your nails hurt humans, your wings terrify them, your stone will kill many people. I won't allow you to remain on the surface like the rest. I can't allow you to escape." The sword princess shouted with a grim face, raising her rapier again. Without warning, Ween began to tear out her claws. "Whine." "Ah!" The little girl screamed in pain as her blood seeped out. Ace's face changed from one of determination to one of fear at what she saw. The last thing left was her wing. Seeing what she was going to do, Belle went to her aid, but it was too late, she had completely ripped it out, the wounds had caused her to fall tired from enduring the pain. "The next time I stop being me I'll really disappear." I was alone in a cold dark place. Even before I was myself I was afraid. I felt alone. Nobody hugged me. But Belle saved me. Belle saved me even when it was dark. Those words came from the depths of Ween's heart, just like the tears that welled up in her eyes and disappeared as they passed down her cheeks. Ace, who remained motionless from what she had just witnessed, could only do one thing. Much to the surprise of the viewer and Belle, she threw in a potion. I don't trust her, but I trust you, Belle, you can go," Ace said, turning her back on them and leaving the place. "Ace," the boy whispered. And so the mission had been successfully completed, although surprisingly the Loki family changed plans and helped the Xenos. Although almost at the end of it something happened that could be classified as unexpected. Bell vs. Asterius fight. The Minotaur had arrived at the center of the city with one gold bellcranel. That monster was a reincarnation of the Minotaur that Bell defeated months ago and wanted his revenge. The battle had begun and, even with a clear disadvantage and without help, Bell faced it bravely. With his body damaged after the confrontation with Ace. Being on the run all night. None of that was an excuse to stop that monster. He had to protect those people at all costs. The battle was reaching its final climax. Both rivals face to face, ready to launch their final attacks. Bells rang throughout the place, illuminating it with a white glow that shone as if it were the sun itself. Clang. 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 Even after the hatred Aurelio received, he protected them. People started supporting him while chanting his name. I will be a hero, I have to protect everyone, never lose anyone again, never lose to anyone. He shouted in his mind like a motivational speech to himself. Ah. They both screamed at the top of their lungs as they approached to end the fight once and for all. Huo. The clash between the sword and the Minotaur's horns caused the ground to shake and loose rocks to rise on the battlefield. However, one side gave in. Bell's side, who was lifted to a great height by Asterius's goring, destroying the sword in the process and losing the chance to win. Before he hit the ground, Asterius intercepted him with his only free arm and smashed into all the walls that stood in his way until, with a single leap, he entered the dungeon, dropping him to one of its floors. Ah! Bell screamed as he felt his bones break from the impact. The victory at defeat Bell, this will be decided in our next confrontation, said the Minotaur, before disappearing into the depths of the dungeon. This was the best, but I wanted to win, I really wanted to win, the boy said, crying from helplessness at seeing that he had lost. Even with all the strength left in his spirit, it wasn't enough to win. I have to keep getting stronger, I lost, but I'm still alive, he thought, trying to see the bright side of this. Everything was over. Confidence in the Hestia family was restored. The Xenos were safe. They had managed to achieve their objectives. However, they still had a way to go. In the moonlight, staring at it, Bell promised himself something. Never lose to anyone again. End of the arc. Arch of the Deep Floors. After what happened with the Xenos, there were some days of tranquility within the Hestia family. There was an air of calm in Aurelio. People seemed to slowly forget what Bell did before his confrontation with the Minotaur, a confrontation that allowed him to rise to level 4, although he could have done so since his battle with Phryne. However, that tranquility was shattered when a notice from the guild arrived at the Fireplace Mansion. A few minutes passed, during which Bell read the contents of the letter Ina had given him regarding her family. When he finished, everyone was thoughtful. So an expedition, Bell remarked, touching his chin. I heard Aisha talk about them on occasion. They give you a list of materials to collect, and you must give them to the guild, Harahim answered, remembering that the Ishtar family had made some. Lily thinks it's dangerous, there are only a few of us, and the things the guild asks for are found up to the great waterfall area on the lower floors, the hobbit said. I think we can invite more people as long as more than half of the group belongs to the Hestia familia, Makoto said, as if a light had turned on. We can tell Aisha, Cassandra and Daphne, I think they would help us cover the weak areas of our party, Welf commented. It would be a great idea, and we meet the requirements, Bell replied, agreeing with her partner. Then it's decided, first we must go see if they agree to join us, and then we'll start the expedition as soon as possible, Lily said, going outside the mansion to get everything necessary regarding items. I'll take care of the weapons, there's something I'd like to do for you, Bell Welf added very excitedly as he ran to his workshop. Eldo, no, I'll take care of notifying Daphne and Cassandra at the Maich family's blue pharmacy, Makoto continued. I'll go with Aisha to the Hermes family headquarters. Harahim said, it seemed like she wanted to visit her friend. I'm alone now, Bell commented in the mansion's living room. A few hours later. Everyone was already at the headquarters. Fortunately for the family, both Aisha and Daphne and Cassandra accepted the proposal, and in 2 days they would leave to begin because it was still necessary to have enough weapons and potions. Night had fallen and Bell would once again have his nightly conversation with Artemis, now that everyone at headquarters was sleeping or otherwise occupied, Welf's case in the workshop. As usual, he began by cordially greeting Artemis, saying that he still misses her. He lay down on the grass, watching the stars and the moon shining brightly in the sky. To start, I think I should tell you what happened with Ween. We learned that she was not the only one who could speak and feel, thanks to the fact that Kami-sama had a conversation with the god Ganesha, and he was aware of the subject, so he gave us his help, as did the god of Aurelio, Urano-sama. There were some problems with the Akelos family. You would have hated that god and his entire family for what they wanted to do. I know you very well, haha, Bell commented with a small chuckle as he remembered his beloved's characteristic character when it came to bad people. Unfortunately, Ween got caught up in it and lost control when the gem was removed from her forehead, so, as you know, I had to save her. He sighed a little before continuing. I have to admit that I knew what I was up against with that decision. She was on the surface, and if I tried to do something to help her, everyone would turn against me. No sooner said than done, they hated me, but not for the reason they should have. They turned on me because of my selfishness and not wanting anyone but me to finish her off. When I caught up with her in the Colosseum, several people used their magic to attack her directly. She was very hurt, on the verge of death. Taking a breath and feeling the tears coming out, the young man paused. I felt like I was losing her. No, I lost her, she died. I couldn't save someone again. Until Fells arrived and, using a rare magic, revived her. She came back to me, she was fine. Tears overflowed from the boy's eyes, and at the same time he smiled with joy at this miracle. The conversation continued until they reached the confrontation with Ace. She seemed really broken inside. She had a really high hatred for all monsters. I want to help her. He is someone dear to me and I want him to have a happy life, so I will do everything possible to make it so. That was said by Bell, who thought of the Sword Princess as a dear friend and someone special to him. He continued talking about what happened on that emotional night and finally got to the part about the Black Minotaur, Asterius. I lost to him, at least no one but myself was hurt in that altercation. Although who am I kidding? I really wanted to win. I still have a long way to go to achieve my dream of being the hero who saves everyone. But I'm not going the wrong way, I'm getting stronger and I'm sure one day I'll be enough to defeat the Black Dragon. I think that's all I have to say. Although, hey. In a few days I'll have more to tell you. My family and I will be going on an expedition with other adventurers from other families. There will surely be many adventures, although I hope not too many because of the risks that could arise in the dungeon. He slowly got up and, standing up, said goodbye. I hope you can see and hear me, Artemis, although I wouldn't mind telling you everything again when we meet again. As he walked back to the mansion after several hours outside, a strong breeze hit him as it always did, although this time he managed to hear something. I always see you. This surprised Bell, who quickly turned around. And when he saw what was in front of him, he couldn't believe it. Hey Artemis. He wondered, his eyes looking like they were about to pop out of their sockets in shock. He rubbed his eyes to check that he wasn't hallucinating, however, when he opened them again, there was no one there. I just imagined it. It was obvious it couldn't be true that she was here at this moment. Even though it was an illusion, it was nice to see you, Bell said, looking down and letting out a small cry. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're actually seeing me, she finished with a smile to the sky, still with tears running down her cheeks. Minus 10,000 more years, it's easy to say, but I'll gladly wait for them if that way I can see you again. Because my heart will have no other owner but you. And even if one day my memories fade and I forget your voice, your actions, my heart, my mind, will always remember that they love you. But that phrase, the white-haired man returned to his headquarters. The wind blew again, but this time it didn't say anything like the previous time. Expedition Day. The group members were now ready to venture into the dungeon. Aisha seemed excited about it, although Daphne and Cassandra weren't. The latter seemed a bit nervous about being there, though she didn't say anything about why, but they would find out later. The expedition proceeded normally, they were obtaining everything they needed and Lily was in charge of storing it until, almost at the end of the intermediate floors, the first big problem occurred. Smart moss. It was there that they understood the true fear that monsters cause. A humanoid moss on the middle floors that had been consuming magic stones left and right from other monsters to grow stronger and stronger to the point of posing a real danger to those who faced it, even if they were experienced adventurers. When Bell and the rest realized this, they panicked, they didn't know how to fight him, and, to end all hope, Bell was forcibly separated from the battle after falling into a cave. The great battle was breaking out between Aisha and the rest against that thing. The disadvantage was clear, they had no way to stop it, the fatigue from the previous journey was beginning to make itself present in their bodies and their minds. Welf was desperately trying to block its path with one of his magic swords at hand, but every attempt to stop the monster proved futile. Even a level 4 like Aisha couldn't defeat it. Hope was lost, they feared for their lives, until the hero appeared. Firebolt. The young white-haired man from the Hestia family shouted from a distance as he ran at full speed with his dagger in hand. Noticing the boy's presence, the moss turned its attention to him. Bell launched a multitude of attacks and avoided receiving them. When a small opening opened up due to the monster's distraction, Bell knew it was time to go all out. It was his chance. Bells echoed across the dungeon floor with a great commotion, and a strong white glow that would hurt the eyes of anyone who dared to look at it directly was born from the boy's hand and went to the blade of the dagger hestia, changing its jet color to white itself. As he ran full speed toward the moss, he said one word only. Firebolt. At that instant, a large amount of flames ran along the edge of the dagger and made it increase in size to the point that it looked like a short sword with a crimson-colored blade and a white handle. Slyosh. The cut was heard by the boy's family and companions. With his back to the moss, motionless and staring at the ground, he knew the battle was over. Moss's body exploded into a sea of flames, leaving no trace of what was once a living being. After the monster fell, Bell approached his friends and asked them only one question. Is everyone okay? No one could believe what they had seen, and the surprise was evident on their faces, but even so, as if he didn't know what he had achieved, the white-haired man approached them with all the naturalness in the world, as if that beast hadn't represented any challenge. I think we should go to Riviera and rest, I feel a bit tired, and I think you do too, we shouldn't take too many risks, as Ina says, an adventurer shouldn't venture too far, Bell said, putting away his weapons and extending his hand to Aisha, who was sitting on the ground. No one disagreed with the proposal, and they headed to their next destination until they were ready to continue. Upon reaching the secure area on the 18th floor, a large number of people were lying in piles around something, which caught Bell's attention, so he went to see what was happening as well, while the rest of his family went to look for a place to rest without having to pay. That's where he saw it. The man who had lost an arm and was covered in blood. The problem wasn't just that, the problem was that he gave the name of someone Bell knew perfectly well when a person asked him who was responsible for it. It was a wind blow. She was the one who did it. The victim declared. When that nickname was said, the young man's face tensed. Ryu was what he thought. No, she couldn't have been. We have to hunt her down. If we don't, we'll fall one by one. The man suggested, standing up. As Bell was about to say something, several of the adventurers there recognized him. They started calling him by his nickname and asked him for help in capturing Ryu. He didn't know how to respond, but he was sure of one thing. He had to find Ryu and see for himself if this was really his fault or if he was being framed. I agree to help you, he replied to the proposal, although his intentions were different. It was in this way that the emergency mission to find the adventurer killer and member of the guild's blacklist, Ryu Lioner Vendaval, was born. Bell went to tell his family what was happening and who was being blamed for it. Like Bell, no one was able to believe that crazy story. They knew the elf at least a little enough to know that she wouldn't do something like that, or at least not without a good reason. I have to look for her. I won't ask you to come with me, but I would greatly appreciate your help, the white-haired man told them as he equipped the rest of his gear and prepared to leave. Hey, seriously, how do you get into so much trouble? Not even when I was in the Apollo family did so many things happen to us, Daphne declared, sighing in exhaustion. Believe me, Daphne, we've stopped asking ourselves that for a while, Wilf replied with a nervous laugh. The Hestia family and their loved ones accepted the emergency mission, even though they had not yet completed the expedition. Without knowing the hell they will live. Bell accompanied the victims group with other adventurers who were there. Before they parted, Cassandra said something to him that made him shudder. Bell, be careful, I had a dream, it's very likely that something very bad will happen, was what the girl said. I'll try to have it, you take good care of yourselves, and if you see that it's too much for you, return to Riviera, the boy answered at the same time that he entered the mouth of the beast without a sign of fear. To make a long story short, they found what they were looking for. Or rather, Bell found who he was looking for. Ryu was pointing his sword at a man lying on his back on the ground with a large amount of blood on his body. Bell approached her and insisted on asking what was happening and what caused this. He didn't want to believe that his friend was responsible for everything that had happened. After insisting many times and several refusals from the elf, Ryu finally gave his answer. It wasn't me. She shouted regarding the injured man in Riviera. This was the only thing I needed to know, he said to Bell with great determination. I trust you, but we must leave, if they see you here and like this everything will get complicated, informed the young man, taking the elf's hand. Before they could escape, the rest of the group arrived. A big argument started and Bell defended his partner, calling the man a liar. When Ryu realized the identity of that stranger, everything went downhill. His name was Jura, and before I could attack him, he pulled out a big whip and suddenly a big snake came out of the ground. Crash. The ground was breaking up and debris was flying through the air. The culprit was the Lambton, a monster capable of traveling between floors through the depths of the earth. That big snake was being controlled by Jura. But that wasn't all, an exorbitant amount of explosive objects were increasingly destroying the floor where they were located. As Bell, Ryu, and the rest of the adventurers were busy stopping the Lambton, a high-pitched screech rattled their eardrums. And, sooner rather than later, a beast made an appearance. "That thing is," Ryu whispered with trembling in his body and words. "Ease. Now you remember. The reason you're still alive is because you let all your sisters die." That shoulder shouted while laughing like a maniac. Before he could continue his mockery, he was sliced. The Juggernaut was the one who did it, and his gaze was fixed on the rest of the people who suffered the same fate. A large amount of blood, bones and flesh was scattered on the ground. Ryu didn't react at all, and when Bell was about to attack the beast, his arm was severed. "Bell?" Ryu shouted when he realized it. Unable to believe it, the boy was stunned and speechless until, with a blow from the tail to his neck, he was sent flying. Ryu ran with all his strength towards its direction, while the monster paid no attention to him. When he approached, he realized that Bell's neck was broken by the impact. If it weren't for the Goliath skin scarf he had around his neck, he would be dead right now. In the small lake to the boy's side, a mermaid appeared to the elf's surprise, and without saying a word, she gave him her blood to reattach the arm to the body at the same time that Ryu healed the neck. Apparently it was a Xenos that Bell encountered before his encounter with the intelligent Moss a few hours ago. With no time to rejoice at having cured the boy, he stood up and prepared for the second round. "Bell. Don't do it, let's run away, we can't win," the elf pleaded with tears in her eyes. "We can't escape, Ryu, that thing will chase us as soon as it notices us," replied the white-haired man, gripping his weapons tightly. "So? We have to fight. I know you're scared. I know it's taking over you. But we must be strong. If we don't face that thing here and now, we will die. And I'll be honest, I don't plan on dying here." Bell finished, pointing his daggers forward. Ryu remained silent and sat on the ground, wondering if it was a good idea to face that beast. However, the Juggernaut set his sights on them again and launched his attack again. To the surprise of everyone, this time he didn't make contact. Bell had dodged the attack and counterattacked with an upward slash directly to the skull area. After that, he took distance so as not to lose sight of the Juggernaut. The monster attacked again, but its blows were blocked and dodged with great difficulty by the boy. Ryu asked, incredulous at what she was seeing. Bell hadn't been able to dodge a single blow and had found himself on the brink of death. Now he's fighting head to head against the calamity. Bell has Saiyan biology. "Is that all?" the boy asked arrogantly as he continued to counterattack fiercely and frantically. Fling. Fling. Clash. Fling. Metal and bone striking repeatedly without hesitation from either side. Heart and soul put into the battle with the full intention of emerging victorious. The bells began to ring throughout the dungeon, although this time, it wasn't a characteristic white glow, it was blue. Plang. 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 With his reflexes enhanced and his focus intact, his Argonaut skill was charged. Bell was looking for the moment to launch his final blow, but the Juggernaut's fear closed any opening he might have, which the rabbit would take advantage of to put an end to all of this once and for all. The elf knew she couldn't continue to do nothing and went straight to distract the monster. When the Juggernaut felt a cut slicing through his tail, he turned in that direction and the opening was created. "Now Bell," said a voice in the white-haired man's mind, alerting him to the opportunity that had been created. Now. Heeding this, he directed all his strength into that attack and approached the calamity. Ah. Firebolt. At that instant, the dagger was embedded in the skeletal chest and fire spread throughout its body, just like when Bell first faced the Minotaur. Ooh. A loud bang shook the floor of the entire dungeon, and a sea of flames came along with it. The boy was thrown back by the shockwave of her attack, and the elf caught him in midair to avoid further damage. When the smoke cleared, they saw that it hadn't been enough, at least half of that thing's body still remained. Damn, Bell said as he tried to stand up. Ryu stopped him and stood in front of him. "I don't plan on dying today either," Bell said, the girl, pointing her wooden sword at the damaged creature. In the sky of a now distant forest. Infinite stars scattered in the endless night sky. "Answer my foolish voice, give me now the divine protection of the starfire. Give the mercy of light to those who abandoned you. Come, wandering wind, wandering traveler. Cross the sky and run through the desert, run faster than anything else. Imbues the light of stardust and destroys the enemy." Taking a breath and ready to finish, the elf screamed at the top of her lungs. Luminous whined. At the end of the chant, he directed the full force of his magic at the remains of the calamity, which lay standing with nothing to do. And in one swift motion the Juggernaut had fallen. With her mind about to shut down and her body longing for a break, Ryu fell on her back but was intercepted by Bell. "You did well, Ryu, you did well," said the boy as he carried her and looked for a way to go back. To his surprise, his family and several Xenos were coming to his aid. Seeing that his rescue would be a fact, he collapsed with a smile on his face. "Thanks for the help, Artemis," Bell thought as the lights went out. That blue glow that gave him the strength to continue was the result of none other than his beloved supporting him from beyond the grave. The footsteps came closer and he felt his body being lifted. The heavy day of expedition had come to an end. End of the arc. I summarized it because it was going to be a huge problem continuing the deep floors. I think there's enough trouble just dealing with the juggernaut. Let's assume that in this alternate line, the Lambton didn't return to the surface. Freya family arc. A date with Sir? The white-haired young man wondered, having just read the letter in his hands. After being rescued from the deep floors and healed at the die-insect family headquarters, the Hestia family lived a prologue period of peace and tranquility. Bell still had to recover from his arm because it was damaged after the confrontation with the juggernaut. Although no one expected the arrival of the goddess's festival, much less that the waitress from the Lady of Plenty would make such a daring and unexpected proposal to the young rabbit. Is this another one of their pranks? Besides, why did someone from the Freya family come to deliver it to me personally? What relationship does Sir have with them? Bell wondered, unable to understand what was happening. This situation was a huge series of unknowns when he thought about the possibilities. Who knocked on the door? Bellsama. Haraham asked curiously since she was usually the one who answered the door when someone knocked. Haraham, I'll go out for a moment, I'll be back as soon as possible, there's something I need to confirm, the white-haired man commented as he left the mansion. Sure Bellsama, I let Hestia-sama and the rest of the family know, have a good trip, he answered the Renard with some confusion. At the end of the small conversation, Bell ran off to the Lady of Plenty so that he could ask Sir herself if the letter was really from her and if she was serious about the date. The date, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I'd have to be a fool not to realize how much she feels about me. Unfortunately, I can't reciprocate, the young man thought as he approached the entrance of the establishment until MMMMHH. He tried to scream, but a hand had grabbed his face and dragged him along with it. Bell started coughing and looked up to find someone who would be trouble. Who are you? The boy asked as he saw an elf with long blonde hair and glasses. Shut your mouth and come with me, if you don't want you and your family to disappear, said that elf, taking Bell's arm tightly. He felt as if his arm was going to be torn off, yet he put up a fight. Plop. That sound came out when Bell pushed aside that person's hand. Huh? The blonde elf managed to say in surprise. I'll go with you, but tell me who you are and what you want, the white-haired man said, rubbing where he had been taken. Insolent human. The elf shouted furiously, trying to hit him. To both of their surprise, he dodged it. Thank you for raising me to level 5, Kami-sama, I don't think I would have been able to do anything against him with my previous level, the boy commented in his thoughts. I won't get anywhere if I kill you right here, anyway, I'll answer your questions, and after that you'll come with me or Sir Sama will have a date with the corpse, the stranger said. Sir Sama? Was what came out of Bell's lips. I am Hedin Selland, member of the Freya family, level 6, said the elf, awakening a look of surprise in the boy. Freya family, another one? He wondered. I came of my own free will and not for my goddess, and much less for Sir, come with me, and you will know what I mean, if not, as I said, Sir Sama will have a date with the corpse, although since she noticed you became one that you have not realized, Hedin replied with a dark look that instilled fear in the heart of the young rabbit. Seeing himself cornered and with no choice, Bell agreed to follow him. Freya family members are terrifying, he thought as he followed Hedin. A few minutes later, in a small cafe on Dietla Street, I think that's where it was, correct me if I'm wrong. See, could you repeat what you said? Bell asked, incredulous at what his ears had just heard. You will train with me to have a perfect date with Sir Sama. If you do anything wrong or make her feel uncomfortable or sad, even if it is just a normal date, there will be no power in the heavens, on earth, or in the dungeon that can protect you from the painful death that I will give you, repeated Hedin, with an imposing tone of voice and a bloodthirsty look. Hedin. You are going to be a god and you will like it. But he tried to make some excuse, but he couldn't come up with one. What? Is your life and the lives of your companions so worthless that you should contradict me? Were you going to refuse the meeting with Sir Sama? The elf asked, similar to his previous statement. I wasn't going to reject her, but I don't want to hurt her, Bell replied, looking at the table with a somewhat complicated expression. Although if having the date with her can save my family, I will do it, I accept to be trained by you, Hedin-sensei, he added to his words. The elf looked at him intently, trying to figure out how the boy worked. Okay, go to your mansion for your weapons and I'll see you in the dungeon in a few minutes, if you miss, I'll come for you personally, Hedin declared, standing up and leaving. Bell sat for a few seconds before leaving. Even if the date is perfect, I can't promise her that I'll love her, there's no way I'll feel that way about her, because my heart will never stop being Artemis's, I must make that clear when our date is over, she thought, feeling some empathy for her friend. From a distance, Hedin watched him closely and could sense the doubt within him. It is my goddess's wish, however that boy will not reciprocate or will, even if they have millions of years together. I know what a foolish person who is faithful to his feelings looks like, he is like that. Even if it is that way, this is the only thing I can do, the elf said to himself, going to the meeting point. And so, the training to become a Casanova began and ended after almost a week in which the rabbit was seen rescuing girls in the dungeon. The day arrived, the meeting between Belle and Sir was going to start in a few minutes, but to put into context what happened in those days, we'll have to summarize it as best we can. Hedin practically forced Belle day and night to study the manners a man should have when dating a lady. He practiced etiquette and elegance, just as he tested them on women who were in danger inside the dungeon. Almost a week without seeing sunlight and being electrocuted whenever he made a mistake or bothered Hedin-sensei. Those days of terror passed for the young rabbit, and when he finally emerged from the darkness of the dungeon, he headed without a word to anyone toward his family's mansion to get ready. The elf kindly bought him a suit for his date, which cost more than several powerful weapons belonging to the Hephaestus family. Everything was ready, all that was left was to wait for the girl to arrive. "Hello Belle," Sir greeted when she saw who would be her companion today. Belle merely returned the greeting politely and extended his hand. And so, the most eventful and dangerous event that Aurario had ever seen in its history began. In the distance, Hedin, no, the entire Freya family, watched intently without taking their eyes off them. Their expressions were at the very least hateful, if not murderous, and they only showed a desire to finish off the poor rabbit. However, only one person seemed unperturbed. That rabbit's master. This isn't going to turn out well for either party, he thought as he adjusted his glasses. At the appointment. This same event took place in a normal and calm manner, much to the surprise of both of them. Sir was impressed by the radical change Belle had undergone from one day to the next. He wasn't that manipulable boy, a walking bundle of nerves who blushed at the mere presence or compliment of a girl. No, this Belle was the gentlemanly and confident version, what every man aspires to be. The two seemed to enjoy each other's company, although they also felt the gazes of several acquaintances directed towards them. After dancing and enjoying a large amount of food, both on Daedalus Street and in the center of the festival that was taking place at the same time, they took a break, and it was there that Belle said something he shouldn't have. He confessed to having been trained by that elf from the Freya family. This seemed to anger the silver-haired girl. She didn't understand why that was something bad, however, the damage was already done. Given the girl's bad mood, Belle had no choice but to ask her what he could do to fix it, at which point she leaned close to his ear and made a request. "Rob me," he said. And boom. He assaults her. "I'll rob you?" He didn't understand what she meant, but a single glance was enough to clarify everything. She looked up at the Freya family members following them. Belle felt a chill as he realized what Sir wanted. Taking a breath, he answered. "Okay." And so the chase and flight began, leading to the most important turning point. Sir's declaration. After so many problems with the Freya family that same day of the appointment and the next day, which had even more problems than the previous one, everything came down to one last act. That girl, that waitress from the Lady of Plenty, had told the white-haired man how she felt. Both in the middle of the streets that emptied at the end of the goddess's festival. Belle couldn't lie to her, she deserved the truth. With all the pain in his heart he had to reject her. "I'm sorry" was the only thing he said, turning around and disappearing into the distance of the city, leaving Sir alone, who lay with her face looking down. Silence fell as tears fell from the poor girl's eyes. Otter was the name she mentioned. At that moment the great Bose, captain of the Freya family, approached her. "Tell me," Freya-sama Otter answered. "Prepare the family, we will take it by force," he finished with a purple glow appearing in his grey eyes. Sir, she wasn't who she seemed. She was the goddess with the strongest family in Aurario, the goddess Freya, and she was going to claim what she wanted, even if she had to get into a lot of trouble. For Freya nothing mattered anymore. With Belle. "I'm sorry sir, I'm really sorry, I wish I could say that I love you, but that would be lying to you and lying to myself," thought the white-haired man, feeling a tightening in his heart. He was running at full speed towards where his family and goddess were. As he walked through the streets of Aurario, a certain elf and a certain golden-haired girl saw him pass by with a worried, almost pale face, and went after him. "I have a very bad feeling this won't end with rejecting Sir. The Freya family has a lot of affection for her, and Hedin-sensei warned me, but I can't play with something as important as love." He screamed internally as step by step he reached his destination. "Kami-sama." Belle warned, running towards her and her family, who were on the streets. "Elle? What's wrong? Is something wrong?" Hestia asked with concern, seeing the desperation in her son. "The Freya family, the goddess, sir, we have to prepare," he stammered without putting order in his words. Hestia tried to calm him down like the rest of her family, but a big blow was present. "Buo. Ugr." Belle gritted his teeth as he held his daggers. No one had seen what was happening until, when they turned around, they noticed that a hobbit with a large club had attacked Mikoto. The only one who noticed it and did something to prevent it was Bell. The hobbit in question was one of the Gulliver brothers, a member of the Freya family. He took his distance, moving away from Bell. Good reflexes, but you won't achieve anything on your own, he told her. At that moment, the rest of the brothers jumped to attack Bell's friends. He, who was busy fighting with the first one, could do nothing but watch as his family was put in danger. Look how your loved ones are being murdered because of you. The little one shouted before. No! Bell shouted furiously, making a single Argonaut charge in just a few seconds. Pooh! A strong blow hit the Gulliver in the face, slamming him into the nearest wall. Bell swore he heard a crunch as his attack made contact. Welf was about to be impaled by Alan. Bell watched everything in slow motion until. Crash. A strong kick was directed at the Catman's face. Hey, damn cat. This isn't over. Shouted Betloga, a level 6 adventurer from the Loki family. Huh? Bell said in disbelief. Suddenly, the rest of the Loki family, along with the Hermes family and Ryu, arrived on the scene. Get out of there, Freya, don't just watch how you caused this altercation, Loki said to the Four Winds. When those words were said, she walked out. Freya-sama they all named. Beside her was Otter, who, with a gesture, made the Gullivers and Alan approach his position. You're more foolish than I thought, Bell, Freya said, in an angry tone. I'm sorry, but I can't reciprocate your feelings, sir, the white-haired man replied, still on guard. Ryu's face tensed at this. I'm sorry Ryu, but Bell is right, although I still have doubts about how you found out, Freya replied, directing those words towards the boy. I always feel your gaze on me. For several months, at the Apollo party I didn't have the opportunity to identify it, but now and last night they confirmed it to me. You are sir was the explanation that Bell used. So that's why, however, I don't care if you know it or not, so I'm going to ask you this question one last time. Are you coming with me of your own free will or will I have to force you? The goddess asked, activating her charm on everyone present. But it didn't work. I'm sorry Freya, that won't help you now, Hermes said, taking off his hat. Why, the goddess stammered. Uranus was very cooperative when we asked him about your charm, giving us a very easy to interpret clue. Honestly, if it weren't for what happened a few months ago with Antares, I would have let things flow without interfering, but Zeus wouldn't forgive me if I did that to his grandson, much less Artemis, the traveling god replied. Hearing the names of both gods, Freya was speechless. Zeus? Bella asked. I'm sorry you found out this way, someday you had to know the truth. Your grandfather is Zeus, and he asked me to take care of you, as we are old friends. I accepted without any complaint, Hermes answered to the white-haired man who couldn't believe it. The glances intensified in Belle's direction. Belle is the last son of the Zeus and Hera family, those families that you and Loki expelled from our area, Hermes added. Regaining her composure, Freya gave her answer. I'm not interested, so, Belle, I'm asking again, are you coming of your own free will? Or will I have to force you? He insisted. I politely declined the proposal, my heart is where it should be and that won't change, Belle replied without any hesitation. Okay family, attack. A simple order was enough for the fight to begin. Stop was heard before a great battle took place in the middle of the city. It was Uranus from a screen. If you want to fix this, it should be in a war game, the Freya family against the Hestia family, and those who wished to support it, was what the god of Aerario suggested. We'll only delay the inevitable, Uranus, I don't think you want to risk your children, Loki, Freya mocked. I'm sorry my beautiful Freya, but they already decided to join forces since they saw you attacking that shrimp son, and I can't stop them, Loki replied with a challenging look. Freya's anger increased at this mockery. It doesn't mean anything, they will lose anyway, they are not strong enough, I accept the war game, the goddess finished, turning her back and withdrawing. Freya-sama, a call came from behind her. Anya? Freya managed to say when she saw who it was. She's not coming alone, added a dwarf. Mamma mia. I said it, didn't I? If any of your sons hurt my girls, I'd get what they paid for, that's why, prepare yourself, I won't forgive you, Mamma mia said with a terrifying aura. What do you two mean? He asked bluntly. We will join the boys' side, of course, the dwarf replied. Freya and her family could not contain their anger. Damn traitor. The Gullivers shouted, attacking her, but were met with a strong blow for each one, causing the four to be buried in the ground. Are you sure about this? Freya asked. You must stop, and it seems that this is the only way, the dwarf concluded. Okay, we'll see each other at the war game, your presence and Anya's don't change anything at all, the goddess commented, walking away with her family. Hey kid. Mamma mia shouted. Yes? Belle asked, standing at attention. You're going to have a hell of a time training with me, I'm going to prepare you for this damn war game, and you're going to save Freya, the dwarf informed him. Yes, that's how it will be. I can't abandon her. I know that deep down, sir. Is still there was the only thing the white-haired man answered. I'm glad you know, it's the only reason I'll help you, she finished. I'll help train him too, Finn added. I see you have a spear, that's my forte, declared the hobbit. Loki, Hermes and Hestia reunited. This is going to be very problematic, even if it's a war game and not a pitched battle in the middle of the city, the difficulty is still very high, Hermes said. Amarona, you better tell us the reason why that Reynard is special. Don't think I haven't noticed that she's not registered in the guild. Those words were directed at Hestia, who only agreed to tell her why Haraham was so special. And so, the great battle between factions began, the will of a young man and the people who support him versus the sick desire of a very dangerous goddess. Ending the war game. The battle was reaching its final moment, both warriors standing, face to face, nose to nose. Bell and Otter were the only ones standing. This must be a damn joke, haha. Bell laughed as he felt his arm shed a large amount of blood. This battle is over. I must admit that you fought bravely, like a great warrior, but I must follow the wishes of my goddess, Bose declared, raising his sword to give one last blow. It seems there will be no way to win. I really tried, but that battle against Alan left me exhausted, and A's, along with Finn, were not enough to defeat Otter. Even with a level increase, the boy thought at the same time as his consciousness faded. Using Artemis's spear to support himself, he raised it even though he lost his balance and pointed it in the direction of the captain of the Freya family. Although I still have my secret weapon, right Artemis? Bell asked in his subconscious and received an answer. That's right, Orion. Otter, I must admit that, in my eyes, you are an adventurer without equal, the white-haired man said when the aforementioned approached to end this once and for all. Goodbye, bellcranel. Hello, Vanitas Otter was the phrase said by Freya when Otter lowered his sword like a guillotine to knock out Bell. Playing. The loud bang between metal and metal made a screeching noise so loud it hurt the ears of those watching the fight. Bell had raised a spear with his one good arm to block the blow. His feet sank into the ground from the impact, but he didn't give up, he didn't retreat, his legs were straight, without bending. Slash. An upward cut created a wound in Bose's chest, forcing him to retreat to gain distance. What's going on? Otter asked, blood oozing from the wound caused by the boy who couldn't believe he was still standing. I said it, didn't I? There's already a woman who lives in my heart. The bright sapphire blue glow emanating from the spear grew more intense. Who has always been with me since the moment he left me. If that weren't enough, loud bells rang out. Clang. 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 What's happening? Freya wondered in terror. You made a big mistake, Freya Hestia commented. The beautiful goddess's gaze fell on Hestia. You underestimated the love Bell feels. You underestimated the bond that is born from that love. She never abandoned him and never will. Artemis will be there for him in his worst moments. He will support it. It will give you that push you need to keep going. Because that's what real love is. Not the inventions you created using your charm. Real love will always be two people supporting each other to grow and have their happy ending. Even Artemis, someone who didn't know that feeling until she finally experienced it, knew. I feel sorry for you. Those were the words spoken by the little goddess, who was waiting for a response from Freya. However, the only thing she could do was shout an order to her son. Stop him, Otter. Bose, coming out of his stupor, obeyed this. Running to avoid defeat. To fulfill the wish of his goddess. However, Bell's wish was greater. It's time, Orion, you can do it, Artemis warned. Before Otter could even get close enough for his sword to reach Bell's body, Bell let out a loud scream. Ah. Zoom. But the strength of his arm and spirit, combined with the power given to him by the goddess Artemis and the increased power he received through his Argonaut ability, Bell launched the arrow of Orion towards Otter. Puo. The loud bang echoed as the body of the Freya family captain was impaled and thrown back until it crashed into one of the walls of the fighting arena. The young rabbit remained standing, breathing heavily. Fatigue was taking its toll on him, and sooner or later he would faint. However, with only the strength of his spirit, he remained standing until he was sure if he really won. When the dust cleared, the chimes ceased, and the white and blue glow diminished, the outcome of the battle became apparent. It's incredible, the winner of the war game is the Aurario Alliance. Shouted the narrator of the meeting, not believing what his eyes had just witnessed. Otter stood looking down with the spear buried in his stomach. All he did was vomit blood before losing any signs of consciousness. The bustle of the people was not long in coming. They had just witnessed a miracle, the fall of the strongest family in all of Aurario. We did it was the only thing that came out of Bell's lips before everything went black and he fell backwards to the ground. Healing adventurers from both factions approached to heal those who participated in the combat. On the goddess's side, Freya sat wordlessly, her face filled with frustration. Artemis never abandoned him. Part of her is still in the spear, waiting to finally join with the rest of her, Hestia whispered. You have nothing to worry about, Freya, the boy does not wish to return you to Tenkai, Loki warned, standing next to her and looking at the battlefield. This caught Freya off guard, who turned to the red-haired goddess. He wants to save you, he will most likely give you that freedom you have longed for, it's incredible, even after what you did, he wants you to be happy, I'm surprised that someone so good exists, Loki declared, walking towards where his children were being treated, he no longer had anything to talk to her about. I hope you don't do anything stupid this time, Sir Hestia declared, emphasizing the name of Freya's alter ego. And so the war game came to an end. End of the arc. Events of a time later. After that great confrontation, things improved greatly, the strongest families of Aurario united to become even stronger, there were no longer selfish desires limiting the potential of adventurers. Their growth increased exponentially, so much so that they finally managed to reach the long-awaited 60th floor, although that was not their limit. Months passed and little by little they were breaking down that barrier they had imposed on themselves. They had to prepare to defeat the monster that represented a threat to everyone, that beast that had to be defeated at all costs, and that could not be stopped long ago by the most powerful families of that time. The Black Dragon. Until one day the preferred date for that confrontation arrived, exactly 6 months after the war game. With Bell having risen to level 9. Otter at level 8 mid. Baze at level 7, as well as Betloga, Riveria, Finn, Gareth, Alan, Hedon and Hogni. The 10 of them had become the strongest adventurers of the time and were ready to face their destiny. And in the final battle that boy, who arrived in Aurario with a sack of coins and a childhood dream that everyone mocked, became the greatest hero of all time. Confrontation against the Black Dragon, final stage. Bell was on his feet, ready to end it all once and for all. His body was a pile of burnt flesh with broken bones. With his last breath, Orion's spear took on a form never seen before. What's going on? Ace wondered, standing up even though her body wouldn't let her. The moon, what's happening to it? Finn questioned as he saw a large amount of energy take the form of that natural satellite. It's not the moon, it's like that time when the dungeon went crazy, Bet declared, getting up even though his whole body hurt. It's the Arcanum, the same Arcanum of Artemis from that time, Otter reported. The spear must be like a site where the energy arrow will fall, the high elf of the Loki family said as a theory. Will it be enough to defeat that beast? The members of the Freya family asked. We'll find out in a few, Alan replied. Back with Bell. Artemis, if I do this, that little part of you that's still with me will disappear, I'll lose you again, Bell said with tears forming in his eyes to the goddess who lived inside the spear. This is the best, you must save the world, you must save yourself, you must give a bright future to all living beings that inhabit this earth, Artemis replied. Also we promised, we will see each other again, whether it's 100 years, 1,000 or 10,000 years, even if it's longer, we will meet again, the goddess added to her words. Save the world, Bell, he finished. And so the final attack was launched once again, Artemis helped her beloved to achieve his goal and save his life along the way. HHHHH. He shouted from the bottom of his heart, throwing Orion's arrow at the dragon who looked in terror at that artificial moon above them. When he finally came out of his trance, it was too late, the monster's fate had been sealed. The great energy arrow fell from the skies at a monster speed, making it impossible to dodge. Boom. The blast created a large crater in the ground and made the ground rumble and the dungeon weep as if it were about to die. Standing still, Bell watched as his goal was achieved. He became the ultimate hero. The end. Wait a minute. What do you mean that's the end? A young man asked indignantly. You didn't like the story? I'm surprised, considering you've been listening to it for over 3 hours, a white-haired boy replied. That's not the problem. Another boy shouted, agreeing with his companion. So what's the problem? The storyteller asked again. The end. What happened to Artemis and Bell? Both boys shouted that question in unison. That was it, whispered the boy. He's still waiting for her to come back, he gave as an answer. This took the two listeners by surprise. How is that possible? He's supposed to be immortal, isn't he? They asked him. Let's just say the gods know how to give good rewards when you accomplish a mission that even they would consider impossible, he replied, winking. So the boy said, being close to the answer to that unknown. Yes, it's as you imagine, bellcranel's wish after having defeated was to become an immortal being, he clarified their doubt. So he never forgets the memories he had with his beloved or the path he traveled and continues to travel to see her again, he added. So will they ever be able to see each other again? The children asked. That's for sure, he answered another question again. How do you know? Simple love conquers all time, doesn't matter, or if she was a goddess and he was a simple human, when two souls are destined to be together, there will be no impediments to their reunion, even if they are separated by thousands or millions of years, was the answer given. And what happened to the rest of the gods? Was the children's last question. They are still here on Earth, living among us, although not with the same function as before, when the world finally had peace, which remains until now. The fauna of the gods and the adventurers were not necessary, although very few gods wanted to return to Tenkai, so you may come across one of them if you are lucky, answered the narrator of the story. And in this way, with their doubts answered, at least most of them, the two boys left, somewhat dissatisfied about not knowing whether the protagonist of the story will get his happy ending or not. Night fell on the city. The white-haired man was lying next to a large tree. He wasn't sleeping, he was just looking at the sky, the stars. Suddenly he took a small notebook out of his pocket. It's been 9,999 years, maybe tonight we can finally meet again, Artemis whispered to himself, none other than bellcranel. The protagonist of that story was none other than him. There are a few minutes left until midnight, and so the 10,000 after our promise will finally be fulfilled, Bell said, looking at his notebook, which was full of crosses, and next to them were numbers. The numbers were the years that had passed since the day they separated. Click. Clack. Click. Clack. The seconds passed, reaching the preferred hour. -5. The countdown began. -4 3 2 1. Midnight arrived and nothing happened. Bell felt a strong grip on his heart as seconds continued to pass and Artemis didn't appear. He stood up, ready to return home. It wasn't 10,000 years later either, he said, his voice breaking and tears coming out of his eyes as he put a cross on the date again. Keeping his gaze lowered, he turned and left. No matter how long I have to wait, even a million years, I'll see you again, he whispered and started on his way back. Until. The voice was heard. Orion. When that call was made, Bell quickly turned in that direction. That's where he saw him. Artemis was the only thing he managed to say. Orion, she repeated while tears came out of her eyes. Artemisa. Bell shouted happily and ran in her direction. Orion. Just. Like her beloved, she went in his direction. Sagebrush. Orion. Sagebrush. Orion. They repeated themselves several times until the moment they had been waiting for finally arrived, the reunion of the two lovers. Hugging each other tightly, burying their faces in each other's shoulders, they joined together again. Everything seemed to have stopped. Looking into each other's eyes, Bell was the first to speak. -10,000 years have passed and you look even more beautiful than in my memories, was what the white-haired man said, joining his forehead with hers. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting for so long, but I'll never leave your side again, my Orion. Let's live our 10,000 years of love, she replied, kissing him tenderly. As he parted, he added one last comment to his previous statement. No, let's have our eternity of love, she finished with a beautiful smile. The wait had been long. The road was difficult to travel. But at the end of the day, with or without setbacks, the end result was worth it. And for all eternity, Bell and Artemis will never be apart. Because that's how strong their feelings are. And now, yes, without fear of being wrong, we can say that love triumphed. Extra. Many years later. We found ourselves in a densely populated and advanced city. Technology had advanced greatly in recent years, so much so that certain vehicles could be seen that weren't pulled by horses, cars, they were called. But that wasn't all there was to it. There were also large buildings, not the size of the Tower of Babel, although they were gigantic, like the Magic Stone Refinery. In short, in this new world, in this new era, peace reigned in every corner. Life was prosperous and tranquil, a perfect world to live in, an ideal and happy world. Walking through the streets with a certain concern on her face, there was a little girl with golden hair. She looked around as if she were searching for something or someone. Suddenly, helpless tears began to flow from her small eyes. Apparently, he was lost. Hey little one, are you okay? Asked a female voice who had crouched down to stand in front of him. She stopped crying and opened her eyes to that woman. Are you lost? He asked again. The girl just nodded as she wiped her tears. I see, the truth is that I am too, but I can help you look for your mother or father. I'm sure that my Orion will find me later, wherever I am. He always does, the blue-haired girl answered, smiling at the little girl. He accepted the help and his hand was taken by her. They were walking, asking several people if they had seen a certain woman with the same hair color as her, a tall, black-haired man. After about half an hour of searching and questioning, two people behind them said the girl's name. Ak. Apparently her name was Aze. When she recognized her parents' voices, she turned to look at them, and her eyes regained their shine. Mom. Dad. Aze shouted, running in their direction and throwing herself at them. I told you not to stray far from your father, this city is very big, and with a small distraction you can get lost, said the mother with her daughter in her arms. And you? The woman shouted. 5. I told you not to leave her alone. You know she's very distracted. She added, hitting her husband for his irresponsibility. Sorry was the only thing the man could say. This amused the blue-haired woman, who just laughed lightly, covering her mouth. I'm glad to know she's with you now. Take good care of her. She's a very obedient girl. She followed my instructions to the letter. He commented. Seriously, thank you very much for your help, we were very worried, they both said as they bowed. It's nothing, there's no problem at all, it's what I had to do, he replied, asking them to raise their heads. Anyway, now it's up to me to find someone, it was a pleasure meeting you little A's, he added, stroking the golden-haired girl's hair. The kind woman walked away and waved goodbye to them. Thank you so much for helping me, miss, the girl shouted with a beautiful smile on her face. She walked on until a voice called her, almost in the same way as what happened with A's and her parents. Artemis. They shouted from a distance. When she turned around, she found her beloved Orion, a young man with white hair. Come on, Mom. You're lost again. Two little ones, apparently a boy and a girl, told her. I'm coming. Artemis replied, running in his direction. Imagine the man's black hair is white, the girl's is blue, and the boy's is white, just like his father, haha. The end. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching, if you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day, bye.